we are live for my inaugural video lead. First time I'm leading a video, and I'm honored to have Kevin from Ottawa, correct?
Yep, that's right. Ottawa, Canada.
Kevin from Ottawa. Now, do you guys have is your supporters group called the Ottawa Hornets? Is it the Canada Hornets?
We're in Ottawa, so we have the Ottawa supporters group. So the Ottawa Watford
Okay.
supporters group. I think there's a couple of others in Ontario and others across Canada, but and there's not too many of us, to be fair. There's only about 10 of us or something who collect at the pub and watch the Watford games and other games as well.
10's a good number. 10's a good number.
Yeah.
It's a solid group. Well, again, welcome. This is the first time we're doing a show with the opposition, and like West Ham Fan TV and a lot of other fan TVs over in Europe do this as well. So we strictly want to talk to supporters from supporters groups here in North America.
Sure.
As you know, soccer isn't as big here, and so it's always interesting to gather people's backgrounds and stories as to why they're a fan of a team where they're not from. Although you are from England, correct?
Yeah, born and bred in Watford. I was in Watford until I was about 21. Got the little travel bug, ended up going backpacking. Met my wife in Australia, and
nice.
It was a choice between Ottawa and sunny Watford. So I ended up in Ottawa. So I've been in Ottawa, though, 20 years now, and I still go back 2-3 times a year, catch a couple of Watford games. I was home for the FA Cup final
nice.
just a couple of months ago, and I'm heading over again in October.
Cool. I went to Vicarage Road, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was March of 2018, I believe. You guys were playing West Brom, so yeah, it must have been 2018 because it was the year they went down. And it honestly might have been the match that officially relegated them. I'm not sure. But yeah, I went to Vicarage Road. Really enjoyed it. For anyone that is watching, highly recommend it. It's different in that there's definitely it's a family club. It's a very everyone is so friendly, and granted, we were sitting in the home end. I'm not West Brom. Although, funny story, my friend was looking at pubs to go to before the game, and I forgot the name of the pub, but he said, "Oh, this one is the first result," and we went. And we got there pretty early, and as we were drinking our beers, more and more people with like navy blue scarves and the Baggies logo, and we were like, "Oh shit! I think we're in the wrong pub."
Either the Moon Under the Water or Oddfellows.
Oddfellows. That was it. And I had just bought a. It's actually right here. I like to collect memorabilia from other teams, so I have a Watford scarf. And I had just bought it. It was just fresh, bright yellow.
There we go.
And everyone's just looking at me like I'm crazy. But no, it was a great experience. Really enjoyed Vicarage Road. For anyone that is trying to go to some other stadiums, I really highly recommend it. It's great. And I usually, like I said, like to get into stories of why people are fans of the team they are fans of. But your story seems to be pretty self-explanatory.
Well, that's why born in Watford. Unfortunately, there's tons of Tottenham, Arsenal. There's even a few West Ham and Liverpool fans and stuff like that. But really, I was born in the hospital next to Vicarage Road Stadium, so I got no choice. And unfortunately, through the high times, through the low times, I've been cheering for Watford ever since I was born. So there we go.
So, was your dad a Watford fan as well, and that got you into it, or your friend?
He was a Watford fan. My mum's from Ireland, my dad's from Watford, and just growing up 5-10 minutes away from the stadium, and like that's what I was Watford born and bred. I left when I was I left Watford when I was about 21, and sort of I still go back and super proud to be a Watford fan, by the way, and living in Canada now for 20 years, There's plenty of room on the Watford bandwagon. So if anybody's interested in being a Watford fan, like, come aboard.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So I want to get straight into it to actually talk about first year club. Obviously, last season, you guys had a really good season, overachieved, in my opinion. You guys did struggle towards the end there. I thought you guys had a poor run of form. Really, that was highlighted by us beating you pretty handily 4-1 at the last game of the season. But you did make the FA Cup final. It must have been just a great season for you guys, no?
Oh, it was better than anybody expected. Like, I think every year the pundits have us to be relegated. Last year, everything worked out great. We started off brilliantly. I think we had 4 or 5 straight wins to start off the season. I think we were in the top 4 more for a longer period of time than even Man United, and we were in the top 10 all season long until that last game against West Ham.
Right.
And even the game against West Ham, we had a player sent off in the first half.
Yeah, I remember that.
To be fair, it might have been a lot different if you were playing 11 players. Although a lot of the players, I think, did have their minds on the FA Cup. So the last 4 or 5 games of the season, like, if anything, I'm a little concerned this year because it has been sort of about 8 or 9 games now without a win. And so, like, if we include last year, and even though the FA Cup final was obviously a shitty result, losing 6-0, it was a fantastic day, great day for the fans. First time back at Wembley for the FA Cup final since 1984. And, I flew over. It was honestly a brilliant day, one of the best days. Super proud of my club as well. 6-0 down and still cheering away. One of the rare sort of set of fans that actually stayed, even though we're 6-0 down. So, super proud of how Watford did last year. Unfortunately, we didn't finish in that top 10. We ended up being 11th. You guys actually overtook us on the last day.
Right.
And so, if you look at even you guys, like, I thought we actually had a better season than you guys, but in the end, it's just the way how the cookie crumbled. We started off great and ended up shit, and then you guys started off shit and ended up great. So, as far as fans are concerned, I think you guys finished the season on a high, whereas we sort of finished the season obviously on a low.
I think we got points from 5 out of our last 6 or 6 out of our last 7 matches, including the last 3 were wins. But you were right. You're right. We started off so poorly last year, and honestly, I think about Watford and West Ham last year as an example to show people that it's such a long season. It's such a long season, and even if you start so poorly, I mean, West Ham fans were talking about relegation after the first 4 games without us getting a point.
Right.
And I mean, to be fair, as West Ham fans, especially the ones that have been West Ham fans for decades, it was a fair argument to make, a fair worry to have. But things can change over 9 months. So moving on, though, from last season into this season, I guess my question to you is all about expectations. You guys had a good season last year. It did end a little poorly, but still overall, comprehensively, a very good season for Watford. Heading into this season, what were your expectations, and have they changed at all, given the fact that you guys have started off a bit poorly?
I think the expectations were, like, going into the season, we pretty much kept our core of the team. We never sold anybody, even though we had offers for Takore, we had offers for Pereira. We still kept our main core. We even added to it as well. So we had a couple of extra signings. I think Danny Welbeck, as long as he can stay fit, is going to be a great signing. We had maybe like obviously he hasn't played that much in the last year or so, but he's got a great track record, over 40 appearances for England. Obviously played great for Man United and Arsenal over the years, and if needed, I think he can score some goals for us. I think we've got him a great contract as well. He's pretty much on a play and you earn sort of contract. He's on 25 grand a week if he just plays. If he's not playing, he's on 75 grand a week if he's playing. So the incentive for him is there. We also broke our record as well, signing Ismail Assar for over 30 odd. I think some reports are saying 40, but I think roughly it's about 35 million pound for a team like Watford. That's huge money. So I think the expectations going into the season were huge, and I think most Watford fans are hoping anyway. Like we're not expecting to go into the Champions League top 4, top 6, or anything like that. I think our main goal is always to be the best of the rest. That sort of 7th or 8th sort of spot. And really, realistically, if we can finish in the top 10, I'd be super happy.
I mean, have those expectations changed given the fact that you guys, have lost your first 2 matches, haven't scored a goal, or is it more of the mindset that I was talking about earlier? It's a long season. It's only 2 games. A win this weekend rights the ship straight away.
Well, it's definitely a long season. I think that first game against Brighton, it was a crap day at the office. Brighton were pretty opportunistic. They managed to score every time they went through. I think we pretty much dominated the game. It's just they went up the other end, got their goal. I think if a couple of decisions had gone our way, and as a Watford fan, I really felt as though VAR was going to really help Watford out. We weren't going to. I'm pretty sure every other team below the top 6 think that they get stifled by the referees every single game. But we really felt as though we were undone a few times last year, and we felt as though this year was going to help us. In the first game against Brighton, there was a pretty much blatant handball, and still went to VAR and not called. And even against Everton last week, which was a much better performance, actually. Brighton was terrible. And first home game of the season, we can put it down to just brand new manager for Brighton, and they're going to start off great. I always hate starting on at home anyway. I almost prefer that first game being on the road. But last week when we played Everton are tipped to be sort of around about that 7th, 6th, maybe entering the top 6 sort of mode. They've signed loads of players as well, and there is a bit of a grudge between Watford and Everton just because they stole Silva from us. They stole Richarlison from us. Well, not stole him. They paid pretty good money for Richarlison, but he wasn't even playing for us at the time. He was sort of on our subs bench. So I think the performance against Everton gave us a lot more hope. I think if we had got the penalty for when Deulofeu was taken down in the box, it would have been a different story, obviously. And I think coming off a 1-1, we'd have been a little bit more confident. Although going into the West Ham game, it does start feeling like it's a must-win, mainly because there is talk about Javi Gracia and whether he's going to be fired. And Watford are notorious for firing their managers, So I think as far as the expectations, I think before the Brighton game, I think most Watford fans would have been expecting anyway a top 10 finish. And I think we are in that sort of mix because we have such a good scouting network, and we've really brought in some great players, and we've got some good players and managed to keep hold of them, even though we've got offers over the summer for the players. But I think the game against Everton definitely got our hopes up again, even though it was still a 1-0 loss. Like you mentioned, we've gone 2 games now and haven't scored. The fact that we've got a bunch of injuries, which were announced today, is not going to help against West Ham. And I think you guys look as though you're getting a bunch of players back. So it's not great timing to play West Ham. And I think you guys are a solid team. I think, like you said earlier, I think Watford and West Ham are pretty much in the same sort of boat. You guys have signed bigger names and probably spent a lot more money than us. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a cracking game on Saturday.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about your expectations heading into the game. As West Ham fans, we tend to think that, and not tend to think, we tend to just observe what happens, and in that West Ham's sometimes play up to their competition when they're playing the Big Six, and then play down to other teams or other teams that we think that we should beat. Essentially, the non-top 6 teams. And it seemed like a couple times over the last couple of years, Watford have just sort of, figuratively punched us in the mouth, and we just haven't been able to punch back. We don't seem to be able to match your guys' physicality, effort, and work rate. And I think I speak for a majority of West Ham fans that we are a little nervous about the lack of physicality and toughness and grit on our team at times. As an opponent, do you go into this West Ham game thinking along similar lines? Do you think of West Ham in a different light? I've always been interested in how fans of opposing teams view West Ham and their squad.
I don't know. I've always thought Mark Noble, he puts in a good challenge. Now
That's
he's
true.
out. He's out at the moment, but
I don't think he'll play.
And I must admit, I think at the moment, I probably view West Ham as you've got some elite players, and I think maybe that's why you do so well against maybe the top 6. Like Watford's record typically is terrible against the top 6, but we're really good against everybody else, and so maybe in that sort of the sort of team we are, maybe that's the way to go, because trying to beat the teams around you and the ones which we're really in competition with, because we know we're not a Man United, a Liverpool, an Arsenal, or any of the Man Cities or any of that. But I think with regards to you guys, how I think of West Ham, I've always had a soft spot for West Ham. Just growing up, I had some West Ham fans, friends, and I don't know. You obviously through the 80s and 90s as well, you were a bit of a yo-yo team, similar to Watford, like up and down and up and down.
Right.
Very, very well supported team. But I think as far as being soft or not being, I don't know. I've never got that impression. It's more really I don't know. I think you guys maybe have gone a little bit more finesse over the last couple of years for sure, and maybe you have lost a little bit of the toughness. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I think West Ham's still a very tough place to go to, even with the new stadium. And
I was about to say.
Yeah, I think the Bowling Ground or Upton Park, that was a cracking stadium, and
Yeah,
I haven't been to the London Stadium or the Olympic Stadium, but on the TV it just doesn't seem as close. But
it's not.
I don't know. I think you have a pretty solid defense. I think going forward as well for your midfield. Like I said, I think it's just that you've gone a little bit more flair, a little bit more finesse players, and maybe to sacrifice a little bit of toughness. That's what you've done.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been supporting West Ham for 5 years, and so when you do think of the teams from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, grit and determination and toughness, your Bobby Moores, your Billy Bondses, they did define those teams. And when I was talking about you put it well, a little more flair, sacrificing a little toughness for a little more flair. I think we've done that over the last handful of years, especially with Pellegrini coming in. Pellegrini, I'm not saying he's not a tough manager, and I'm not questioning the toughness or effort of our players at the current time. But he does play that beautiful, attacking, free-flowing type of, football with flair. So I just always worry when we play teams that are a bit more physical than us. A Brighton we've struggled with immensely since they've come up. We struggled with you guys a couple times. We struggled with Bournemouth. So these teams that play, they know the system that they're playing in. They seem to play as one more. I'm always a little nervous playing against teams like that, including you guys.
True, and I think Watford do have definitely some tough players like Decore, Deeney.
We don't like Deeney too much.
No.
I don't think anybody does except for you guys, really.
Oh, I love Deeney.
Of course,
I love Deeney. Deeney's my guy. But I must admit, I think he's probably going to be really well liked once he retires. I think he's going to make a great pundit. He speaks the truth, and
He does.
And like maybe there are some teams like Arsenal, for example, like calling them out for having a lack of cojones. But like
Yeah.
I think against West Ham, like he scored a cracking goal last year. Just right over the goalie, right into the edge of the box against West Ham. But obviously, there was news today that he's going to be out. So so I don't think you guys have to worry about Deeney, obviously, for tomorrow. Even Decore, Capu, cracking centre midfielders and defensive centre midfielders, and they definitely put their foot in. I think we have got one of the worst records in the league for yellow and red cards. We've got
Really? Okay.
we got Holebas, who's actually got the most cards out of any player in the Premier League in the last 2 years, like 2 years in a row. This guy,
I think he was the one that got sent off against us as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. So now cracking defender though, like really good defender, and I'm guessing he should be there tomorrow. On Saturday. Sorry, he should be playing. We're a tough team to play against, although we've also introduced a little bit of flair and finesse as well, and hopefully that's going to shine a little bit on Saturday. I'm really expecting a good game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals, but I just think the two teams are going to match each other pretty good. And we both haven't had the greatest of starts. Fair enough, losing 2 games and not even scoring a goal. And you guys drew with Brighton last week, who obviously beat us 3-0 at home. But I think it's going to be a good game, and I think there's going to be a few players coming back from injury or being introduced. For Watford, we've got a couple of players. Welbeck, played about 10 minutes at the end of the Everton game, but our record signing hasn't played 1 minute yet for us, and I'm really hoping he's going to be introduced on Saturday. And I think with
is that Sarr?
Yeah, Ismail Sarr. No one really knows a lot about him at Watford. All we know is that we've paid 35 million pounds for him. He was really good for Rennes, and he was really good at the African Nations Cup. He played for Senegal, made the final. There was Sadio Mane on one wing and Sarr on the other. So he's obviously a pretty good player, although still pretty young. And it's, although I'm not calling it a must-win on Saturday, but I think after going 2 games without scoring a goal, and after our expectations going into the season and how we started last season, everybody's really, really hoping for a result on Saturday. And I think back at home, the guys, the players owe the fans a good performance. And, hopefully they're looking at West Ham as a team where we can start hopefully getting back on the road to getting some points and moving up the table. And, although I must admit, I think it's got draw written all over it, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into the predictions in a bit. We always stop about halfway through to look at the chat room. I don't think you can see it. I think I can only see it. We didn't promote this video beforehand as much as we probably should have, but there are some people in the chat room. B. Hoff saying that this show is a good idea. I also agree. I mean, I'm a little biased. It was my idea, but I think it is pretty cool to talk to the opposition. Gabe, who always, I think he has a 100% attendance record on these live videos, says Danny Welbeck was a good signing for you guys. He thinks he was a very good signing for you guys. I think based on your earlier words about him, you agree, especially that pay to play. I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah, and if he stays fit. If he stays fit, I think he can be an outstanding signing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil from South Australia says it's 9:50 a.m. on a Friday morning. He always comes in and gives us the time of day. So Neil, welcome. Yeah. And then Gaz, one of our guys, says evening Watford fella. So some of our mainstays are on. Which is always good to see. So yeah, moving into the game. So I'm really not good at knowing how other teams play and set up. So could you explain a little bit how Watford, your usual formation under Gracia, and how you think you'll play, especially with the few injuries that you may have on Saturday with the Corey and Dini being out. How do you guys think you'll set up?
Well, it's like for Javi Gracia, our coach, it's pretty much been going a 4-2-2-2 the whole all last season, this season, and I'm starting to think that we're starting to get caught out a little bit, or found out anyway. And a lot of the fans have been complaining about it over the last couple of games anyway. Just like, when is he going to be making some changes? Is he going to change the formation? And how is he going to fit in Welbeck? How is he going to fit in Ismail Assar and still keep Deulofeu happy, who loves playing as striker, but in the last game he was moved out more to the wing. I think the injury to Dini today, having the knee surgery, I think it's forced his hand a little bit. And I think listening to him in his press conference today, he was sort of saying that Sarr maybe is still not ready, maybe not match fitness. But I just can't understand how that can be the case when he was playing in the African Nations Cup only, 3 weeks ago. So I think Sarr will be introduced this weekend. I think he's going to still go with the regular back four, like Foster in goal, and then Dawson and Cathcart as our centre-backs. I think he's going to have Holebas, just because he's our sort of go-to guy with putting in free kicks, that sort of thing, and crosses. Now, Kiki Firmino is a bit of a fan favourite, a coach favourite for Javi Gracia, a Spanish guy, great going forward, and puts in some cracking crosses as well. Although a lot of the fans have been screaming for Daryl Janmat maybe to take over, just because he's better defensively. He's maybe not as good going forward, but he's better defensively. And I think we've got to really shore up our defence. When we were talking earlier, I think if we could have signed anything extra, it would have been another centre-back, just because it's been screaming out that we've been lacking defensively. And even though we've brought in Dawson, at the end of the day, he was still a West Brom Championship defender.
Right.
I think he's definitely a threat on set pieces, corners, that sort of thing. But really, at the end of the day, Cathcart and Dawson is our centre-back pairing. We bought a defender for £5.56 million, which in today's money is a bargain, peanuts.
Right.
And I just don't know whether he's made that much of a difference. Now, the main strength of our team is our midfield, though, and Decore, outstanding. Although there's rumours today that he might even be injured for the weekend.
Yeah, that would be a massive loss for you guys.
Huge loss. And Capu, even though he was our player of the season last year, and actually, even though Decore takes all the credit and gets all the plaudits, like, Capu is brilliant. Like, he's a solid player, and he's going to be playing on Saturday as well. Now, the chances are, if Decore is injured, he's going to bring in a guy called Domingos Quina, who we actually got from West Ham. Like,
yep.
Like a £1 million signing, and played a few games for us last year, mainly as a substitute in a lot of our cup games, although scored a cracking goal. And
he did.
He has a smile on his face all the time, and the other players love him as well. So maybe he's going to get an opportunity tomorrow. And I also wouldn't even be surprised, even if Decore is playing, if they went with a three sort of went more of a 4-3-3 and actually changed it up, because just hoofing it up to Dini, which that's what we've sort of tended to do the last couple of games, is not going to work with Dini not there. And even if we do bring in Welbeck or Gray, they're not that big target man where you can just hoof a ball up. We are going to have to play a little bit more flary and with a bit more finesse, although I don't know whether that's going to work against a finesse team like West Ham, but like you said earlier, I think part of our strength is actually going into those tackles hard and being a physical sort of team. So I think we've still got to try and keep that. Now, Keena's not a physical guy by any means. I think he's like 125 pounds soaking wet, but he's tons of effort, and he's right there. Pereira is also another player, though, that is doubtful for the weekend. And to be honest, I think he's been one of our best players going forward, in the last couple of games. Even though we've lost, he's been, that sort of little bright spark in the last couple of games. Now, if he is missing, who knows? Maybe Sarr is going to be brought in maybe a little bit early. But I know the Watford fans are keen to see Welbeck, Sarr, and whoever's on the other wing. It will probably be Delafeu, obviously, but I think a forward three of Delafeu, Sarr, and Welbeck, or even Gray if we had to. It's going to be attacking you guys pretty good.
Yeah, we have Gaz in the chat room saying that Delafeu is a dangerous geezer, and if we keep him quiet, we can really turn you guys over. And then speaking of Aquina, we were really shocked to see him go. Not only to see him go, but to see him go for so little, and also to to a Premier League rival as well. And we have some rules here at West Ham. If you have a team that hasn't won in a while, play West Ham. If you have a team that hasn't scored some goals in a while, play West Ham. And you bet your ass that if you have a player who used to be on West Ham, you better play that person because he's bound to score against West Ham. We have so many people saying, a lot of the Chicago guys too. We have a thread, and everyone's saying, Quino's going to score. Quino's going to score. Quino's going to score. They're going to score like 4 goals against us because they haven't scored yet. They'll get their first win. It's the classic West Ham fan mentality. Just
right,
looking for the negative. But I will say that it is. I hate seeing players injured, especially seriously. But hopefully everything's okay with your guys, but it is nice from a West Ham perspective to see Decore, so Dini's definitely out, and then Decore and Pereira I know are doubtful. It sounds like Decore is pretty sure to be a no-go. When I saw that, I gotta admit it benefits West Ham tremendously, and it definitely changes my prediction for the game. I don't know. Does that make you ever more nervous as well?
Oh, for sure. Like Decore is a quality player, so missing Decore is going to be obviously going to be kicking us in the nuts a little bit. But although to be fair, I think Capoue is our main guy in the midfield, and even though Decore gets all the plaudits, he hasn't been on his game, especially the first 2 games of the season, and a little bit at the end of last season as well.
Didn't he have an own goal?
He did in the first game of the season. He had an own goal. Now,
yeah, I saw that.
The chances are, if he hadn't scored it, the Brighton player would have scored it anyway.
Right.
But but yeah, obviously an own goal is an own goal, and it can happen sometimes. And it was the first goal for Brighton as well. So I think the heads went down, and it was pretty hard to get back into the game after that. I think if I was a West Ham fan, obviously having no Dini, having no Decore, and having no Pereira is obviously a plus for you guys. I do think though that, in a way, though, it's sort of forced our coach's hand. Like Javi Gracia now is going to have to play these other players. And I think the fans, anyway, over the last few weeks have been screaming for, start Welbeck, start Sarr, give him an opportunity. And even though Delafeu can't be our striker, move him out to that wing and have that strong 3 forwards who can hopefully do some damage. And then as far as the midfield, I think what the fans are asking for and begging for is to get away from this 4-2-2-2, which I think people have sussed us out. And I think West Ham beat us at the end of the last season, and I'm pretty sure the player getting sent off, Holebas getting sent off, played a big part into that, because I think it was a pretty even game into half time. But I just think going into this season, and going into this game, I think as a Watford fan, I must admit, I do think we can beat you guys. I think a draw is written all over it. But I think going into West Ham, though, it's like what you did say. If anybody's looking to change their season around or stop a losing streak or score a goal finally for the first time this season, West Ham's a pretty good team to be playing. But although. I think with you guys as well, you've got enough excuses because you have been missing quite a few players as well. And I think you're getting these players back. And I do the fantasy league and Haller, whatever. Haller. I think he's going to be an outstanding signing for you. Lanzini, he's been out injured with a knee injury all last year. He's actually looked pretty.
He has looked good. Yeah.
Lanzini's been sort of your Pereira. In the first 2 games, even though results haven't really gone your way, I still see a lot of good in what Lanzini's done. And the same with Pereira. And I think we'll miss Pereira this weekend because he's been pretty much one of our only little bright sparks going into those last 2 games.
Yeah. Lanzini has been very good. He's actually going to get a new contract as well. Rumor has it that they're doubling what he's making. I think he made around 50,000 pounds a week, and so now he'll get into that 6-figure mark. He has played well for us. Who? I mean, I know you mentioned Lanzini, so that may be your answer to this question. But who scares you on our team? Who do you look at in our squad and say, man, that guy could be the downfall of us this weekend on Saturday?
Well, Lanzini, Anderson obviously is a quality player. I do see him very, very similar to Pereira and even Delafeo. Like when they turn up, and when they don't, they've got that little inconsistency sort of thing going on. Maybe Haller, I'm interested to see how he's going to be progressing throughout the season. And Chicharito, he's got a great track record. I don't know whether he necessarily scares us. Who else? I don't know. Declan Rice, he's not going to be scoring against us. Snodgrass, I've always loved Snodgrass, although by the sounds of it, he might be in or out for this weekend anyway.
He didn't have too good of a game against Brighton. I believe he was subbed off at half for Antonio, who I think he started versus City in the first week. He got subbed off at half, which I didn't agree with because I thought he had a good half. And then he came on in the second half for, I believe, Snodgrass. And we were a lot more sharper, crisper, played better, I thought. So I think Antonio is also a guy. He's a guy that I really love. I love him playing against these more physical, gritty teams because he's not the most skillful player in the world, although he can be on his day. But he's just got so much strength and pace. No one can handle him out on the wings. I mean, very few people can. I think for me personally, I've been a big Antonio guy since he's been signed, and so far this season, him, Lanzini, Anderson is a bit inconsistent. He had like a real good 2-3 month spell last year, and then didn't really do anything for a while. But then you mentioned Haller. You said that you're interested to see how he gets on. I think you and me both. He obviously had a great track record in Germany, and I also think his skill set, he's big, physical, holds up the ball well, fits well into the Premier League. But you never know. So hopefully he'll be back. I really hope him and Anderson will be back. It sounds like they will be, and it sounds like they were just taken out for precautions last week. But we'll see. And now the grand finale, Kevin. The whole point of discussing this is to figure this out. Prediction. Who's gonna what will be the score? You can also, even if you want, you can say who you think will score.
Okay. I think it has got a draw written all over it. I think it will be probably 1-1. I'd love to get one goal at least get us going for the season. I'd love it to be Ismail Assar as well, maybe getting a debut goal, maybe Welbeck or Delafeo. Obviously, although I think one of us is going to nick it and get that 2-1 sort of win. And ideally, I'd love Ismail Assar or Welbeck to get that sort of winning goal. I think we are at home. We are at home, and I think we play well at home. And the fans are still pretty much on our side. Personally, I think my head's telling me it's 1-1. My heart tells me it's going to be 2-1 Watford.
Yeah, it's been tough for me. I've been going back and forth. I actually don't think it's going to be a draw. I think one team's going to win this game. I'm not 100% confident in West Ham. I mean, when are we really? But I'm gonna actually go 2-1 West Ham.
Okay.
I actually think there'll be a penalty in there somewhere. I'm thinking maybe
Hollebass.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think we'll get a penalty maybe early in the first half. We'll play well, get a penalty, and then because we've been starting off games very brightly. and but it will, and then we've sort of faded as we've gotten into the first half. I think Watford will equalize, maybe a De La Feu goal. I could definitely see that. He seems to always threaten a bunch when he plays us. But I actually think that our record signing, Hilaire, will get the game-winning goal in the second half. I don't know if it'll be early or late, but I am going to go 2-1 West Ham. Hilaire with the goal. We'll get a penalty. I like throwing in those like random little predictions too, just to see if it'll come true. But I am going to pick 2-1. Kevin, hopefully you're wrong and I'm right. But when we do this thing for the reverse fixture, and I'm sure I'll talk to you before then as well. We'll compare and see who got it right. But yeah, I mean, so I really appreciate you coming on, man. This is the first time we're doing this. I think.
Yep.
I mean, I think it turned out well. It's always interesting to hear from opposing fans, especially here in North America, and hear their stories and hear why they cheer for their teams. And we tend to focus so much on our own club, West Ham, that it's always nice to just learn a little bit more about, what the fans are saying about your manager, about your board, about your formation. So, Kevin, I really appreciate you taking the time, man. It means a lot. And yeah, again, can't wait to do this for the reverse fixture. Hopefully we'll be trying to do the double on you guys.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, been a pleasure. Good luck. Obviously not on Saturday, but good luck for the rest of the season. And
You too.
I'm sure we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. All right, guys, signing off. Thanks, Kevin. Talk to you later.
Take care. See ya.